So we're going to continue with our discussion of IPv6 and talk about some IPv6 addressing basics. Now, you'll recall the IPv4 addresses that we've all grown to know and love have a 32-bit address space, or basically 4 octets of 8 bits each. IPv6 addresses use a 128-bit address space, or 8 segments of 16 bits each, and some people might look at that and go, holy cow, how am I supposed to write a 128-bit address? Well, never fear, it turns out that the IPv6 address space uses the hexadecimal numbering system, so an IPv6 address kind of looks like a MAC address. There is an address that I just pulled out of the air by just typing random hex numbers. We'll get into a proper IPv6 address here in just a little bit. And some people, myself included, look at this IPv6 address and say, wow, even that's too long. Can you imagine having to type that out every time you wanted to ping an address? Ping space 2340:1111:AAAA, so on and so forth. Well, luckily, there are some shortcuts to writing an IPv6 address. There's 2 shortcuts to be specific. Number 1, you can drop leading zeros from any segment of the IPv6 address. And number 2, a group of all zeros can be abbreviated with a double colon, but only once in each IP address. If there are multiple groups of zeros that are separated by numbers, you should abbreviate the leftmost group. So to give you an example, here is a link local IPv6 address, and this IPv6 address can be shortened to FE80::: to remove all of these zeros here, 1 to drop the first 3 zeros in that, DC1 because we're dropping the leading zero there, then 23451234. Again, still kind of a handful to type, especially if you're having to do it over and over, but it's a lot easier than typing this long 128-bit number here. Now, much like IPv4 addresses, IPv6 addresses use a slash notation as a shortcut to refer to entire ranges of addresses. This is called the prefix length, and in my opinion, the easiest way to think of a prefix length is kind of the subnet. For example, here is an IP address with a prefix length of /64. So what you do is you take the first 64 bits of the IPv6 address, in this case it just happens to be exactly half of the IPv6 address, you chop it off there, and you fill out the rest with zeros. And that is your global routing prefix, 2340:1111:AAAA1423. However, since all of these are zeros, we can actually abbreviate that even further by saying that the global routing prefix is that. So you'll notice that we have the first 64 bits and a double colon to say the rest of it from here on out is all zeros. Now, in IPv6, there are 3 different types of destination addresses. Number 1 is a unicast. Again, just like IPv4, a single device receives the packet, just like IPv4. Very straightforward. We also have a multicast. Again, just like IPv4, a group of devices receives a single packet, and all of the devices in the multicast group take action on that packet. And last we have the anycast. Anycast routes the packet to the address that is physically or topologically closest to the sending workstation. I have seen analogs to the anycast address on IPv4 networks, but honestly they're not used because they tend to break state-based protocols like HTTP or load balancers, so on and so forth. Now you might notice that there is a destination type missing, and that's the broadcast for IPv6, and quite simply, there is no broadcast. Pretty much, if you need to send information to multiple machines on an IPv6 network, you use a multicast address. And you might look at that and say, well, I really want a broadcast, but then think about the size of the address space. If you sent a broadcast to this /64 global routing prefix, then you could feasibly be affecting tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of computers. So I think they made a good decision in removing the broadcast from IPv6. We'll continue on with our discussion of IPv6 addressing basics in the next video.